Hello everyone, welcome to Anu's classroom. In this video, we'll be talking about the various methods and techniques that are used for data collection. So data collection I know is not a new concept for any of us. We have been talking about data collection from the very first semester onwards. But this is kind of like a recap of all those things I could say. Won't take much time, I promise you. So a few of the things that we'll be rewinding or revisiting in this particular video will be what is primary and secondary data, what are the methods of collecting primary data, and what are the merits and demerits of the different methods that we use for collecting this primary data, how we can define or design a questionnaire, how we pre-test a questionnaire, how we edit primary data, what are the various techniques of interview that we have, how do we collect secondary data, and how do we scrutinize the secondary data. Scrutiny is very important when it comes to secondary data. So how we do those things. So let's get started. So what is primary and secondary data? Primary data is those data which is collected fresh for the first time. So it is very original in character. It is specifically collected for our research. Whereas secondary data is that data which has already been collected by somebody else and which has already been processed. For their research, they collected it. Now it is available for us as well. That is what secondary data is. Primary data is what we are collecting. So even when an organization is interested in collecting this primary data, it is very important that we also take the help of various types of secondary data as well to design a proper sampling scheme. Now, what are the merits of collecting this primary data? One of the main merits is that it helps in observing the actual population from on whom we are conducting the research. So that could also give us more idea into or more insight into their behaviors. Um, each method of collecting data has its own uses, right? So it is not like primary data is something superior to secondary data. Sometimes, like for example, if our population is too huge, like if we are trying to find out the trend across the whole nation, it is very difficult to do on the entire data, right, on the entire population. So we might have to see if there is census survey data already available from the what you can say from the Indian government itself. Many research projects, many PhD scholars also, when they do their researches, they submit their data to the survey board, and some of them actually do get selected, and we will be able to access that for our research purpose as well. So it is not that primary data is something superior to secondary data. We generally always, whether it be a small student doing their UG project to a PhD scholar, whoever that is, or the in the whole governmental level, it will be stupid if we just rely on one particular type of data. Generally we join the different types of data and use it as a collection. So how do we collect this primary data? Observation, questionnaires. The questionnaire could be mailed or direct interview or telephone interview. Even Google Forms is a type of questionnaire, right? So all those are various ways in which you can create or collect primary data. So how do we define or design such a questionnaire? So a questionnaire is said to possess three main aspects. So when you define or design a questionnaire, you should consider all these three factors. Make sure that they agree, right? So the general form, that is the form of a questionnaire, will depend partially on the type of data that is being sought and partially on the data collection method that is to be used. So whether the questions are going to be descriptive or multi-choice, whether you're going to put a Likert scale, like you don't like it or you like it very much, things like that. Okay, so that is the general form. Then the question sequence, the introduction to the questionnaire should be very short and simple as possible, and how you arrange the various sections of your questionnaire, that is also very important. The question wording, okay, so it should be clear, it should be easily understood by the people who are taking, right? If you are giving this questionnaire, you're using this questionnaire to the local people, and you write IELTS level English questions, it's going to be very difficult, correct? So the wording is important. Whereas you frame the questions with thinking about your villagers and in mind, and you go and take the same questionnaire and try to collect data with this from, say, the US or UK or somewhere else, they're going to laugh at you too, correct? So that the wording should also matter. So all these things you should take care when you are designing the questionnaire. What the form of the questions are going to be, what is the sequence, and how you word your questions. It should not be ambiguous, it should be clear and easily understood, right? So that is about designing a questionnaire. So pre-testing a questionnaire, what does it mean? Pre-testing is a very valuable indicator for the effectiveness of a questionnaire for collecting the data. So how we do is we select and approach a few number of people with this particular questionnaire, okay, in the same manner that we would do when in the full scale operation. And then what we do is we try to get them answer the questions, and we will see whether they are finding it difficult to answer any particular question, whether they are not able to understand, whether they feel the we take the feedbacks from that small set of people, and we try to incorporate all those points before launching the complete questionnaire to the world. Okay, so that is pre-testing of a questionnaire. And then we once we get the questionnaire ready, we collect the data. There is something called as data preparation. Okay, that is nothing but editing our primary data for checking its legibility, completeness, as well as consistency. Usually in the sorry, data engineering, data analysis field, we call it as data prep, preparing the data. We ask whether you have prepared the data or not. That means we have scanned the data, nulls are avoided. Then if there is any inconsistent data, like you have put let's say if it is a salary figure and you have said good, then that is a wrong data. Similarly, whether you like it or not, if it is a yes or no question and you say 5, that is also wrong data. So we get rid of all those wrong data. We summarize it, maybe even merge data, all those things. Generally preparing the data is what the term we use. Okay, so the next is how well we interview people. So interviewing also is one of the ways in which we collect primary data, right? So a few techniques we have to keep in mind before, during, and after our interview process. So before the interview, we should make sure that we research, practice, be prompt, and prepared about everything that is there related to us, related to the research. Who all we will answer, how we will approach them, what, like, we should be also, be prepared about all the various types of questions that could come as counter questions to our questions as well, right? So we should be very prepared. We should do a thorough research on who we are going to subject for our interviews, whether they're going to be householders, whether they're going to be working people, whether they're going to be school children. Depending on all those factors, we should go prepared, right? Similarly, during an interview, we should make sure that you first introduce ourselves in a very courteous manner. We should act professionally. We should ask questions, but at the same time maintain a conversational flow. We should ensure that we are always carrying a very positive body language. Do not make yourself look like you are trying to confront the other people. Don't, it should not feel like though you are questioning, you should not feel like you are questioning. Got it? Okay, so don't intimidate or make the participant uncomfortable in any manner. Be enthusiastic. And similarly, after the interview, make sure that you review yourself, how and review how the respondent responded to your questions, and make sure as well as their responses as well, so that the next interview will go much better than the one that you just did, right? Evaluate the responses. So those are a few of the things that you should keep in mind while you are doing, before you are doing, while you are doing, and after your interviews. The last topic for this session is about secondary data. So how do we collect secondary data? We can collect secondary data from various publications at the central, state, or local government levels, foreign governments, and even international bodies, journals of trade, commerce, economics, engineering, any other source of secondary data, like could be books, magazines, newspapers, reports prepared by various universities, historical documents, diaries, letters, unpublished biographies, autobiographies, all these things, and much, much more could all be sources of your secondary data collection. And while you have your secondary data, you should scrutinize it, and in order to make sure that whatever data that you have, the secondary data that you have, is suitable for your research, is reliable, it's adequate, as well as accurate. Okay, so you should make sure all these things are, you should make sure that all these things are ticked with your secondary data in order to make sure that we can use it for our research purpose. So that was it about the methods and techniques of data collection. I hope you guys got a general idea. You already would have had all these things in mind, especially since we have been talking about data and data collection right from our first semester onwards. So I hope this was a good refresher for you all, and I hope to see you all in the next session, wherein we'll talk more about the research methodology for management decisions, which is also useful for your projects, right? So thank you so much for being with Anu's classroom. Until I see you all in the next session, take care. Bye bye.